In 2020, many conferences moved to virtual presentations. Rather than giving a 20-minute talk at a conference center at an airport hotel, people were giving a 20-minute recorded talk in their bedrooms, kitchens, or if they're lucky, their home office. I hope that we'll soon be able to travel again and see each other, but I think that the virtual presentations are here to stay. Particularly in computer science, we shouldn't force people to travel 2,000 kilometers and spew tons of CO2 just to give a talk. And sometimes people don't have an option to travel, whether it's because of their health, their family obligations, or their immigration status. In this video, I'm going to talk about how, if we keep doing virtual presentations, and I think we should, we can make them better and fully make use of the medium. For my students, I hope that this can inspire them to think about how to effectively and creatively communicate their research, for example, for their course projects. But while it's understandable that the first virtual talks of 2020 were just moving the exact same talk from a convention center to a living room, I haven't seen as much innovation as I had hoped as we have gotten more used to the practice. And I think that's a misuse of this opportunity. As an aside, I think that part of the problem is that many conferences already had contracts with Slides Live, who are optimized for in-person one-off recordings. And they do it great. It's perfect for recording a talk at a conference where you have slides presented live. Hopefully, we'll be able to give speakers more flexibility in the future by letting them just, for example, upload their video directly to something like YouTube. I think that would also make more people discover interesting content and to create better captions, both automatically and manually. The tools for YouTube have been developed for a long time, and I'm sure the same thing is true for Yandex Video and Tudo. Okay, but that rant aside, I think that it's helpful to review what a video allows you to do, because we might have forgotten. It allows you to break the constraints of time and space. This means that you don't have to record all of a video at once. For a particularly long research project, one of my students began collecting footage over the course of a year to emphasize the longitudinal nature of this research. A tour de force in this medium is a NeurIPS keynote by Isbell. He interviewed a bunch of people to gather perspectives about how to ethically deploy machine learning software. The way he did it allows for the incorporation of voices that would otherwise not be in a NeurIPS keynote. And from the perspective of a viewer, it just makes the content more engaging. And it's also a useful strategy for dealing with imposter syndrome. If you're invited for a talk and you feel that you're not the best person to speak on a subject, an easy way out is for you to just call the person who is. What would normally be a one-sided lecture into an actual conversation, and hopefully that's what we can have here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
This is something that I did at an ACL workshop where I was invited to give a talk, and I called up my former student Alvin Grissom to say, hey, how would you approach this subject? But the virtual presentation format also lets you get voices from outside the research community. For example, Denis Peskov built a dataset using data from an online community.
I'm Chris Martin. I'm a former president of the North American Diplomacy Federation.
Rather than letting their voices be silenced by the anonymity of a scrape of data, this allows them to explain who they are before the natural language processing community starts using their data willy-nilly. Taken together, you can create the Marshall Mcluhan scene from Annie Hall in these virtual presentations.
So I think that my insights into Mr. Mcluhan, well, have a great deal of validity.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, that's funny, because I happen to have Mr. Mcluhan right here. Come over here a second.
Oh,
Tell him.
I heard what you were saying. You know nothing of my work.
You can get the expert, you can get the voices that matter and put them in the video. One of the reasons that I think that exploring these alternate presentation forms is important is that a monologue by a single speaker is not always the best way to explain a concept. In my video with Ben Böttinger, we created a dialogue between schools of thought. I represented a community of trivia nerds, and Ben represented the traditional, skeptical, rightly so in this context, question-answering community from the natural language processing perspective.
But that makes the questions really unwieldy. I mean, do we really need all this time-wasting disclaimer boilerplate?
No, the warnings were meant to be a playful additional hint to the player. Similarly, Michelle Yuan motivated her research through a skit.
You seem stressed out. What's wrong? I have to classify medical sentences based on their content.
Other skits would simply be impossible in traditional presentations. Beyond adding diversity and interest, one advantage of using multiple speakers is that it helps show the contributions of individual researchers, which, as author lists get longer, are often obscured. Well, you probably don't want to have 5 different people coming up to a podium and swapping out laptops and stuff like that. Doing this in a video with editing software is easy. And you can use a lower third to say what a particular person did on a research project without really distracting from the presentation of the material. Video lets dialogue datasets become much more compelling.
You say you don't want us to fight, yet you betrayed both of our confidence with you in a way that makes us distrust each other?
I really don't think that's a fair description. You guys both wanted to attack each other.
Unfortunately, doing many of the things that I've mentioned is difficult within the frameworks that conferences are using right now, which might require you to, say, use a particular piece of software to record your video. Some of these software systems require you to record a presentation live in one go without mistakes, or if you make a mistake, live with it. Just as we wouldn't require authors to fire up a web browser window and type an entire paper in one go without making any mistakes, Jack Kerouac style, we shouldn't require presenters to get a presentation commemorated for all of eternity online in one shot. Moreover, this is a disservice to people who, for instance, stutter and would like to edit their slides. The medium allows it. We should let them do that. The ability to try again and to edit also makes live demos much less risky. You can cut out processing time and you can reboot the machine when it misbehaves. While conference presentations are often painfully disconnected from the code underneath, they don't need to be. I could imagine an excellent presentation that tells the story of a research project through a live Python notebook that people could later go through on their own. I also think we need to do away with the traditional conception of slides as the repository for what a particular presentation was about. Let's go back to the excellent NeurIPS keynote that I mentioned before. Because they were forced into having a dual stream of video content and slides, when they put the keynote available for posterity, they did it in kind of a messy way. And this isn't their fault. It was because of the constraints of the way that they had to submit their presentation for the conference. We have devices optimized for a single stream of video. And not everybody has 2 monitors at home where they can put slides here and video over here. Some people are going to be watching a presentation on a phone. We should have one stream of video. And I'm not saying that we should do away with slides, but part of the process of making a good virtual presentation is knowing how to combine the two together. I don't need my face to be 4,000 pixels high all the time, or ever. Sometimes that means you're going to switch between the person presenting and the slides.
I just lied to you and tricked you. I just told you that there were 3 robot bodies here, each with their own intelligence. Just because you see 3 robot bodies that all present themselves as having 3 names doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that these are actually distinct systems.
This is also discussed in the virtual reality community. One of the challenges with virtual reality compared to a traditional video experience is that it's unclear where you should be looking at any given time. A good virtual presentation should use the tools at its disposal to make that clear to the viewer. Another advantage of virtual presentations is that they can serve a better jumping off point than conference talks. Traditional conference talks use all sorts of kludges like QR codes displayed on the screen to help enable this, but that's hard to do. But watching a video on a device that's connected to the internet allows viewers to jump off to related papers or videos or demos or an explanation that had to be excluded for the sake of the time slot. I could also imagine Bandersnatch style videos where you could have separate tracks for experts on the topic versus novices. This is of course impossible in a traditional conference venue, but it's not impossible for virtual presentations. And I'm sure there are some experiments that won't age so well. They'll be like the annoying animations that people overuse when they first install PowerPoint. And I'm sure that I'm guilty of some of these. But treating virtual presentations as simply a plug-in replacement for a one-take conference presentation at a podium prevents experimentation. But experimentation is good. I think as scientists we can agree with that. But we need to give ourselves permission and the technical context to make the most of this opportunity. Now is the chance to establish the norms and best practices as we increasingly, I hope at least, adopt virtual presentations. If we ignore this opportunity, we risk virtual presentations taking on the worst attributes of in-person presentations: impersonal, stilted, and annoying to produce. But there's a chance that we can make it better than in-person presentations ever were. More informative, more accessible, more equitable, and more importantly, more fun. Thanks for watching this video. I fully realize that making a video about making videos will guarantee that I have something unpleasant or unprofessional in this video. I encourage you to point that out in the comments, and hopefully I can do better next time. I've also linked to all of the videos that I've mentioned or referenced in the description, so please check them out. They're almost certainly better than this. If you want to see more videos like this, check the video description for the course that comes from the link down below. You can then see the context and the correct order for watching these videos. YouTube will gleefully show you stuff in the wrong order. If you want other people to see this video, provide a big gradient to the recommendation algorithm by clicking the like and subscribe button down below.